So do you ever have this great idea that comes to you about using a particular paper combination or a set of pictures that you think will go great with a particular paper, and then you start sitting down to work on that project and nothing about it seems to be working? The idea in your head doesn't match the pictures or the papers as you imagined them. Well, that was sort of my dilemma with this particular project. And I had this idea that I was going to take a lot of my sunset photos and I was going to pair it with the Cape Cod workshop papers, and that I would have this beautiful sunset layout using this striped paper that has the colors that really are reflective of a lot of sunset photos, especially my sunset photos. So the oranges and the pinks and the blues, the watercolors of the lagoon, so periwinkle and all of these other colors. And so I thought, oh, this is going to be perfect. So if I take this Cape Cod collection, and again, just to refresh you, the collection for the workshop does give you all of the standard papers that are part of the Cape Cod paper and sticker sheet combinations. So again, all these wonderful papers that you've already seen me show on previous videos. All of these are part of the Cape Cod collection for the workshop. So you get all those standard papers, and you get solid cardstock, so periwinkle, lagoon, and white daisy. And then you get the sticker sheet, right, that we've already worked with. And then lastly, you get some specialty papers with die cuts. This is one of the specialty papers that is part of the Cape Cod workshop. The second specialty paper is this blue denim wash paper, and you get 2 sheets of that. And these are single-sided, so these are not double-sided papers like the rest of our paper. And then you get die cut sheets. So in this case, you have a set of die cuts that are circles, and then some other die cuts to go with, obviously, the layouts that have been created by the Close to My Heart design teams. And when I looked at these, I thought, okay, yeah, I like this striped paper. I think this would be great for my sunset photos. But the Let's Go part of the layout didn't really fit my paper or fit my photos, right? This doesn't work with my photos in my eye, and I didn't want to use the Let's Go. That terminology didn't really work for me for my photos. So I thought, okay, how can I take this particular paper, use it for my photos, but also not necessarily use the Let's Go? And so this particular left side paper is actually a lot like a die cut, because it had this outside piece that you can see I have kind of mangled at this point, that you take off, and then you're supposed to back it with a solid white daisy piece of paper. And if I wasn't going to use the Let's Go, I was trying to figure out, okay, how can I cover that up? And so I printed out my photos, and because I knew I had a large area that I was trying to cover, I printed them out 4x6. Well, the problem is this is not a 12x12 piece of paper anymore, because it's been punched out of that piece. And so now my photos are going longer than the paper. And that wasn't really working for me. And then as I started laying down other photos that I had, I was really struggling with the colors of the photos. The photos weren't really working with the paper. Even when I was putting them over on the right side, where I had obviously more places to lay them out or play with them, things were not working. So then I decided, okay, well, maybe I need to reprint my photos and have all of them have the white mats. So I went ahead and reprinted my photos. I do have a printer at home. I have the Epson printer that I have been using for, God, a couple of years now. And so I reprinted my photos. I changed one of my photos that I had over here. I made it a 4x4, and I thought, well, maybe I can make that work. And then I was still running into a problem. The white on these photos was fading into the white background because, again, I needed to cover up where that die cut was going to be punched out. And so when I put my photos up against that edge, the white was just washing into the white at the bottom. And the same thing was happening down here on the bottom side. You know, didn't matter which photos I used, again, the white edges were just fading in. My photos were not working with even the white edge. So I thought, okay, well, let's take a look at bringing in some paper, bringing in the melon, or the, in this case, I believe this is actually nectarine. The nectarine or melon, bringing in the ballerina or the periwinkle or some of these other colors. And so I thought, okay, well, let's do that. Let's pull this. Maybe we can just mount these pictures on the paper, and this might work for me. And so I started laying my photos on to see if they would work. And I started, you know, playing with them. And it was like, okay, well, this kind of works with this set of photos, but it doesn't really work with this photo. So I could, you know, maybe do a couple of different mats. So then I pulled out the nectarine thinking, okay, maybe the nectarine might work on this photo, and it just washes the photo out. It's too much of the same color. It doesn't work. So I thought, okay, well, maybe if we do Sundance, right? If I pull in Sundance against this particular photo. And again, not working with that photo. It works okay with the photo of my husband and I. It works okay with the photo of the boat, though not great. And it's okay with this one, but again, this one photo it wasn't working with. So then I thought, okay, well, maybe we need to go darker. Maybe we need to go to flamingo and use the flamingo paper. We'll turn that around here and see if that works. Again, when I put my photos down on the flamingo paper, it kind of works, but it's almost overpowering, right? It's overpowering to the pinks that are in this photo, and it doesn't work with this photo at all. And if I lay this photo down, again, it clashes. It's not right. So at this point, I'm getting pretty frustrated. My idea is not working out. I don't know why. It seemed very logical in my brain that this should have worked. So I set it aside. I didn't play with it anymore after I got frustrated. And I decided that I needed to step away and really think about, what did I want to do? Did I want to continue down the path of using this paper for sunset photos? Did I want to scrap the idea completely and just go back and make a layout using the paper the way that was designed by Close to My Heart? Or might I have another option that I might be able to play around with? So I let it sit for a couple of days, actually. And then I came back and I pulled out some black paper. And I thought, well, what if since I already knew I had to create a 12 by 12 with this piece of paper, the striped paper, I was going to have to put something behind it. Maybe what I could do is use black and essentially cut, and I'll pull this up so that you guys can see this, essentially cut that section out where we have the die cut. Both, you know, just cut this whole section out and insert behind it a black 12 by 12 piece of paper. And then I could do the same thing on the right hand side. I could measure the strips and then cut them, both top and bottom, cut those, and then mount this on a black piece of cardstock. So I thought, okay, well, maybe that will work. So if I pull in some of my pictures, how does that feel? How does it feel to have those pictures with the white borders sitting on this black background? And what ended up happening is that it started working. The black started working with the pictures, and it didn't detract from the stripes. It didn't detract from these pieces. And so I started feeling hopeful that maybe I could make this work, right? Just putting in some of these other pictures just so that you can see that it was working. And what I realized, the reason why it was working is that in almost all of these pictures, except for this one with my husband and I, the other dominant color in the picture is black, or a very dark color. You've got black in the trees here, black in the trees here. These trees look black, this deck looks black, and the ground in this picture looks black. And all of a sudden, the pictures are showing their beauty. They are popping off of the page, and that it is working with this striped paper. So it was like this aha moment that maybe I could make this work. The one picture that I was still struggling with, though, was this picture. And it works okay, but it doesn't work the best in this layout at all. There's not enough black. It's a little bit too big. It's a little bit too pixelated. It needs to be a smaller picture, or it needs to be a picture that if I put on this layout, I'm going to put in a flip flap. It will not be a prominent or a primary picture on this particular layout. And the only reason I want to possibly include it is that my husband and I both take sunset pictures. He took this picture at the lake. I took this picture in Half Moon Bay, which is just over the hill from us in the San Francisco Bay Area. These pictures are all of our Hawaii pictures. This is also a Hawaii picture. This is in Ireland when I was in Dublin, Ireland just recently. So I have a lot of pictures that are kind of all over. There's not one particular location, and we take sunset pictures a lot. And I even have more sunset pictures that I might actually pull in. This one is not the best one that he took when he was hunting. This was a sunrise picture, actually, not a sunset picture. And it's just the color and the composition just don't work. So if I want to use it, I probably will either make it smaller or put it in a flip flap so that it is a secondary picture that we can tell a story about, but not necessarily have it being a primary focal point on the layout. Again, a little bit similar with this one. This one's a little bit too pixelated. I need to make it smaller. It was a picture taken from the beach, and it's just too big for a 4x6, or the 4x6 just makes it too washed out and too pixelated. So I'll probably reprint that one as well. So with that, now that I think I've solved my dilemma of how I might be able to use this paper from the Cape Cod workshop kit and still use my photos that I wanted to use, I can now go away and we can start looking at the assembly of this. So stick with me, I'll be back. All right, so I've cut down all of my left side that had the pieces for the Let's Go. So I've cut all of the pieces out from that middle section that had to do with the Let's Go, as I mentioned in my last, before I broke. And so I have all these pieces. I can save all of these little pieces that are part of this. I can use this Let's Go potentially somewhere else on a different layout or something that's more appropriate for pictures that I have. So I'm going to go ahead and probably put those aside and probably save them. But I have cut the paper and created the sections that I was looking at putting on to this particular layout with all my sunset pictures. So the next thing I did is I went ahead, and my initial thought was that I would just take a piece of black cardstock and I was going to go ahead and just lay these pieces down on top of the black cardstock, just like this. And then I would lay my pictures on the black cardstock like this. And when I looked at this, it was like, that's not really like, the white was going to overlay, the white of the borders of my pictures was going to overlay on the white of the pieces I cut out from the specialty paper. And I didn't like that. That wasn't really the look I was going for. I was going for more of this look where I had a little bit of black sticking out. So I thought, okay, well, that's not going to really work. So then I decided, okay, I'll cut up another piece of black cardstock. And again, if I get this laid out correctly, like this, I can put the two pieces that I had cut out from that specialty paper, and then I can lay a piece of black cardstock on top, like so, on top of these pieces. And again, I have to tack all this stuff down. It's not tacked down at this point, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating that bridge from the white to the white, and I'm laying a piece of black on top of it. And then that's giving me more of the look that I'm going for, which is to have this black stand out on this paper. And the paper, again, will stand out a little bit more as well itself. So the idea being having a little bit more black focused on this centerpiece. I did try to use a piece of white cardstock underneath, and again, when you put the white underneath, it doesn't look bad. It's not that it looks bad, it just sort of washes it out compared to the black. And so that's not what I was looking for. I was looking for the black to really anchor this layout. So this was sort of take two of my process to try and get this paper to work with my sunset pictures. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to then have to lay out the right side of this page. And the right side of this page is also going to need a black border. And that's what I've done here. I've just trimmed down the patterned paper because this was a full 12 by 12 piece of paper. And I did actually trim it a little bit. I've got a 1/2 inch border roughly on this side. I only did a 1/4 of an inch border on, I'm sorry, this is a 1/4 of an inch border. This is just slightly under a 1/4 of an inch border. But I'm okay with that because I'm going to have a lot of other black elements on this page that will help anchor it. So one of the things that I did is, again, the white borders on my pictures were fading into the background of the paper, and I really wanted them to pop. But I also think I needed more black on this right hand side. So what I did is I just created some small photo mats. This is just a 1/4 of an inch, sorry, 1/8 of an inch bigger than the photos themselves. So these are all 4x6 photos. Again, I did a collage on this one. I haven't split these guys apart because then I would lose some of that border and it wouldn't look uniform the way that my photo printer at home works. And then this one I changed the size to a 4x4. You'll notice I also changed the sailboat to a 4x4, and then this other picture that I have as a 4x4. And on this side, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to highlight, which I wasn't going to be able to do on this left side because there is no pink here. But because this has such strong pink tones, I wanted to bring these down so that this pink stripe is complementing the pink that is in this photo, the pink that is in this photo. And that was a decision that I made. Now, what I might go back and do is maybe add this photo in here. So reprint this one with this photo as its secondary, because again, there is more pink in this one, and then turn this one into a 4x4 and have the two sailboats also here. Now I did repeat a sailboat up, the same sailboat up in this corner as well, but I actually have a new picture that I just took in Florida. Just got back from a trip in Florida, dropping my daughter off to school, and so I think I might replace that sailboat as well. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go away, I'm going to start putting a bit of this together, and then we're going to come back and embellish it with a title and with a few other items. Moving on to how I'm going to embellish this 2-page layout. So what I did is I brought back out the guide, the workshop guide that Close to My Heart provided, to look at what they did with the layout. Even though mine is different, this can give me some ideas as how I might want to also do some embellishment on my side, and can I use any of the pieces that are part of excuse me, part of the embellishment packs or the die cuts that are part of the workshop. So if we look at the workshop for the left side, it has the pink arrow, it has this periwinkle circle that has shells on it, it has one of the chipboard or die cuts that are more in that craft color, and it's got a few splatters as well as some banners that are part of it. And when I looked at this, I was like, okay, that's not bad. I could possibly use that. So that was the other idea. And then when I flipped it over to look at the right side, again, we have a lot of stickers, and we have, again, the periwinkle circle that has the shells on it, a few more banners, beach lover. And then when I looked at this, it was like, most of this I didn't think would work for my pictures. Again, yes, a lot of my pictures of the sunset are at the beach, but they're not, I don't necessarily want to invoke a beach theme. Not everything is a beach picture, and so I felt like this was a little bit over kill for my pictures in particular. But I did want to see, could I use any of these ideas on my layout? So I pulled out the die cuts, and I went ahead and punched out the pink, or the ballerina arrow. I pulled out the two shell circles, half circle and circle, and then on the other ones, I didn't pull any of the other things out. The other parts are stickers, so essentially the rest of them were all stickers. And then I pulled out that die, the die that had the palm tree on it, because I do have a lot of palm trees in my pictures, and I felt like, okay, that might work. I could probably use that. So I pulled those things out to see what could I do with that. And so I started laying out, say, these circles, and just trying to arrange them to see how they might work with my pictures. And what I felt was that I was introducing another color into my pictures. I've really been focusing sort of on the melon, peach, nectarine color that's here. I've focused on the ballerina color as well, and a lot of my pictures are very heavily dominant of those colors. And by bringing in this color, though it's complementary, I just felt like I was bringing in a little bit too much. And then on top of it, the shells were really standing out to me on this paper. So again, I was bringing in more of a beach theme, even though, like I said, I've got beach pictures here. You can tell that they're beach pictures, but not all of them are. This is a lake picture. This is duck hunting. This is actually a sunrise duck hunting. This is looking over a bay in Vermont. This is my house. This is Los Angeles. This is Ireland. So again, they're not all beach pictures. So I really felt like, no, I didn't want to introduce the seashells themselves. So I decided to pull those out. Then I thought, well, this arrow is pink. I might be able to use this. And so I started trying to play around with, would this be usable maybe with the tree? And I felt like I was getting a little bit too heavy because I wanted my title down here at the bottom. Now remember, Let's Go was the title up here at the top in the original layout. So I was not using that, so I needed another place to kind of put my title. And Painting the Sky was the title that I kind of liked. I thought it was kind of a fun play on all of these various different sunset pictures. So I was feeling like I was getting a bit heavy down here at the bottom with this arrow. So it didn't really fit anywhere else. It didn't really fit on this side that well. It didn't really fit up here at the top. To me, it just kind of looked out of place. So again, the arrow got taken away. But the tree, I thought we could use. So the tree is staying. So then I started going through my stamps. And because I wasn't going to be using a lot of the provided embellishments, I needed to come up with my own embellishments. And this is where your stamps and your other thin cuts can really come into play to help you embellish your creations. Not being able to use something that was already provided, really going kind of off script, so to speak, will allow you to utilize a lot of those materials that you already have in your stash, whether they're stamps or papers or thin cuts, etc. So I have the circle thin cuts, and I really did like the idea of adding circles to this layout. So I had the circle thin cuts. I thought that might be something I could use. And then I started going through my stamps, and I remembered that as part of our September-October catalog, we have the Cozy Up card making workshop that has this great, I wouldn't call it abstract circle, but overlapping circle. I thought, that's perfect. I think that might work. And then I started digging in my stash for tags. So that's a tag thin cut. I looked at some of my other travel stamp sets. So Are We There Yet? This sun border and these tickets, I thought maybe I could do something with that. In the previous catalog, the one that just ended yesterday, on the 31st of August, there was also this summer, and I thought, oh great, those sunglasses, I could probably do something with those sunglasses because they have mountains and not quite so much related to like palm trees and things. Then I went back even further to when we had month stamp sets that we offered, and I thought, oh, the camera and the words picture perfect, really good. There's also this water, because again, a lot of these pictures have water in them. Maybe I could use that. Adventure badges from last year. Again, some of these badges, I thought, okay, maybe I could use that. And then Beach Party from last year as well. So I really kind of just went through my stamps and I started pulling out, the last one that I had, which was part of the special, the scrapbook, National Scrapbook Day special, the sun, what was this called? Endless Sunshine. I thought, oh, okay, that one, that has a lot of really great circle icons, has words like the sun will rise again, endless sunshine, shine bright. Like, I thought this one would be really good as well. So then what I did is I just started pulling things out. I just started trying to create a few embellishment styles that I might be able to use, and started playing with them. So this is from the Cozy Up stamp set. That's the circle, and I cut one in ballerina and one in, I think that's melon, that I did that one. I thought, okay, I can use these as circle elements on the page, just like those other circle elements. I have the sunglasses that were part of the summer stamp set, and I colored those with our new pencils that are available now, those bright pencils. I thought, okay, maybe that might work. I cut out some tags in Nectarine, and I thought maybe I could use these tags as part of identifying what these pictures were, right? Could I do that? Here is the sun. Looks like it's rising or setting. Maybe I could use that. And then I have that, what are the badges? What do they call these? Adventure badges. I thought, well, okay, that's another circle element. And then could I use that sun, what was that called again? Endless sunshine. You know, I made a tag with that, or a little piece for that. And then there's the picture perfect and a camera. And then I have all of these. I did different colors of those tickets. Ticket to Ride, Scenic Route. So I've got it in Ballerina and in Nectarine. No, actually, Ballerina, Melon, and Black. So again, sometimes you just need to have a variety of things that you can play around with when you're doing your embellishments. So that's what I created, and then I have a ballerina tag as well that I created. So then I just started laying things out, and the first thing that I realized when I started laying these out is that this sunrise, sunset strip really wasn't working. I didn't think it really helped the layout in any way. It was kind of distracting. Maybe if I had done it in white, maybe that would have been better, but I really didn't like that, so I put that aside. And then I was looking at all these tags, and I cut a bunch of them so that I could lay them out, and I realized the tags kind of worked on the left side, but they didn't really work on the right side. There's not a lot of space over here on my layout, and they just kind of, they look like they interfered with the flow of the pictures. So I ended up saying, okay, so these aren't going to work either. And that's when I ended up deciding that just doing a standard tag and putting it behind this photo, I can list out all the photos and where they were taken in the world on that tag that you can pull out and look at. And then if I wanted to do any additional journaling, I could do it on the back side of that tag as well. Or I could make two tags and have two tags sitting in here. So then that sort of left me with some of these other pieces, which I really thought would be helpful or useful. And again, using the Cozy Up, just going to pull that out again. Using this Cozy Up thin cut, I die cut those into those two colors, and then I just cut them in half because they're going to have to sit behind some of these pieces. And so it's just a matter of layering them. I decided that I wanted to have multiple layers, and that way I could offset them and create a, create some visual interest or some depth with them. And I've got a couple of different ones here so that I can try and layer these guys up so that they're offset. So something like that, where they're offset, where you're seeing both colors. Okay, so then how do I do this? Obviously, I've got a couple of options. I can lay my embellishments on top of my photos, and I can tuck them underneath. And so based off of that, I really wanted to have the flow of the eye go from that upper left down to the lower left and then up to the upper right. So again, I've kind of got this triangle, right, of flow for the pictures and the embellishments to work together. The second thing I want to do is make sure that I don't have these embellishments floating. So I don't want these embellishments to sit up here above the picture with no relationship to the picture. it looks out of place. It doesn't really work. So again, when you are putting your embellishments, make sure that they have some relationship to the picture in some way, whether it's sitting underneath the picture, touching the picture, however makes sense for that embellishment cluster. You really want it to have a relationship to that photo. Again, it's trying to get the eye to carry through to see the photos. The photos are what we're trying to do. Now, this particular circle wasn't big enough. So what I did is I just cut it in half, and then I'm going to end up hiding that split that you see there, right? So no one's going to know that I split that circle and spread it across. They're not going to see that. And then my tag is going to also potentially go there. I might shrink that in just a bit and not have the tag maybe be interfering with that circle. So this side, I'm going to again tuck the circle underneath, the half circle underneath, layering it. And then I'm going to put the sunglasses on top of that. And then down here in the corner, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and tuck this circle set, these pieces, underneath here. I'm going to have my palm tree and my sun down here. Again, I'm trying to create balance, but I'm also trying to make sure that there's a landing spot. So for the tree, the landing spot is going to be the bottom of the page, right? It's not, I don't want it to be floating, is the idea. And so that's kind of the way that I think the embellishments are going to go. The last piece of embellishments that I'm going to do is pulling out my acrylic black stars and using those as additional smaller elements that are highlighting the page. So again, I felt like the stars were a good option for this, because it is, a lot of these pictures are either going from day to night or night to day. And so I'm going to just go through and I'm going to pick out some of these stars, some different sizes, and I'm going to do groups of 3 of them so that, again, balance and creating a triangle, right? I want to create, again, a visual interest here. So the other thing you'll notice is that I have repeated elements across the page. So if I put a circle on one side, I put a circle on the other side. That's important. Color balance, making sure you've got colors on both sides, making sure that you have similar elements on the side. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect exact match, but I've got a circle here and a circle here. I've got a circle sort of in the frame of the glasses again, so I've sort of got 3 circles. I've got the die cut 3 different times. The only thing I don't have is a second tree, but because I have trees in the photos, I've got myself covered. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the last thing that I wanted to do is talk about, well, actually the 2 last things I want to talk about are this tag and the words down here. So this tag is in ballerina, and again, I'm trying to use that play of orange and pink on here. And this tag to me is fading. This is fading into the background. I want this to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to grab, this is ballerina, I'm going to grab my flamingo ink, because flamingo is a slightly darker color. And I'm going to pull out my blending brush for flamingo, which I should have in here somewhere. There we go. And I'm going to just ink up the edges of this tag. And that will give me just a little bit of definition. I don't want it, I want to do just enough so that it defines the edges of this tag. And so it doesn't quite fade in. Again, it's a slightly darker pink than what's on the layout, the stripe that's on the layout. And I am going to just go all the way around. But it's not so dark that it's going to be like, if I had put black on here, it would be way too contrast, I think, against the pink. So I'm just sort of doing a tone on tone with this. And I'm not putting on too much ink to start, just because you can't take it off, but you can add more if you need to. So if I slide that behind here, you can see that it just gives me a little bit of ability. It just pops a little bit more off of that layout itself. It just adds a little bit of extra. And then I'm also going to probably take some of my ribbon here that I just happen to have at the top, and I'll probably add a little bit of ribbon there, just as another little bit to finish it off. All right, so what I want to do last is kind of talk about the title that I have down here. The title is actually from the alphabet set that we had a couple of years ago, black acrylic. It wasn't in this past year's catalog, it was in the one before. And I was able to get a majority of my title from this set, but I was missing an S. And so what I did is I went through my stash and I found this past year's, again, something that just ended, the wood grain alphabet die set that I had in my stash, and I pulled out an S. Now it is thinner than the acrylic shapes that I had. So I'm going to decide if I want to pop this up on 3D foam tape or not. I may actually buy the black that was still in stock. I may go ahead and buy the black letters because I can use, they're good size and I can use them on titles instead of using this one. This one you'll know is a little bit shiny, and that's because I put some liquid glass on top of it because it was very dull after I colored it with my intense black ink. It was a little bit dull, but now I think it's a little bit too shiny. So I'm going to kind of hold off on maybe anchoring that S down when I put this down to wait for those black ones to come in to see if I like the black better on this layout. So with that, I am going to adhere everything down, and I will have some pictures at the end of my final layout. I finished the left side of the layout for the most part as far as embellishments go, but I wanted to talk about the right side of the layout a little bit and how I'm going to handle this cluster up here on the right hand side. So in order for this tag to really work, so that you can pull it out and see the picture callouts, I needed to lift it up on 3D foam tape. And so what I've done is I've taken some thin 3D foam tape and I've actually just cut it in half because I needed more area for the embellishment cluster plus the tag to fit. So hopefully you can see this is just a piece of thin 3D foam or narrow 3D foam tape, and then I've just sliced it in half and then run it up the right and left hand sides and then just put a full piece down at the bottom. I've already adhered my circles, so I dry placed this and I made sure that it was in the location I wanted it to be in. And so now I'm going to go ahead and put this down, and then we can do the final embellishments for this right hand side. When I was putting the left hand side together, I only had one of the little dots that's for the eye, and so I decided what I was going to do is go ahead and repeat that star over here on the left so that I didn't have one eye without a dot and another eye with a star. So I just went ahead and repeated that star. Now I'm just trying to line this up with the picture down below. And you can see with my tag, I have put the pictures where they're located here, so that if someone wanted to know where these pictures were, they'd be able to do that. I just printed this on a clear label, Avery label, and printed it out, measured it out, printed it, and then stuck it down so that it can slide right in here, like so. All right, so then I've got my extra embellishments. This was the camera embellishment, and what I've done is I have taken my black shimmer brush and my clear shimmer brush, and I've just added some detail to that. And then on my Picture Perfect, I just edged, hopefully you can see that I just edged it again with a little bit of that flamingo ink. And then I haven't done anything to the circle. So what I want to do is I want to lay this piece down. You always start with your largest piece. So I'm going to lay, these are similar in size, but I'm going to lay this piece down. And actually, I didn't really like this sticking out in my picture. It's okay, it's not horrible, but since I need to put an embellishment on anyway, I'm going to go ahead and lay it over that. And then I'm going to lay down my Picture Perfect. And I'm going to just do a little bit of adjustment here, Picture Perfect, and then I'm going to put my camera in here as well. So I'm just playing around with this a little bit. It looks like I need to maybe adjust these guys a little bit if I can. Down a little bit more, like so. And then I can lay these guys to hide that circle isn't a perfect circle. So I might do that like so. And then this will slide underneath both of these like that. So that's going to be, I think, the way that I'm going to do this cluster. So we're going to start with this piece, and because this is on 3D foam tape, I'm going to go ahead and put 3D foam tape back here on this edge so that I have lost my 3D foam tape. You know how that happens, right? You just used it and then it disappears. Usually it's my scissors that happens with. Okay, so I'm going to just see which direction I want this to go. And I'm going to put the 3D foam tape. And I'm going to lay that down to pretty much cover that lamp there. Then I'll take some 3D foam tape for this Picture Perfect. Oops, I think I did that a little bit too long. Okay, go like that. So, and then again, just a little bit of 3D foam tape underneath the camera on that one side. I'm not going to glue it down to my picture. I could put a little bit of adhesive there, but it's going to be under a or in a memory protector, so I'm not really worried about it kind of moving around too much. So I want these to be related to each other, so I'm trying to get this underneath so that I can get kind of all of these pieces together like that. Okay, looks like I need a little bit of 3D foam tape right there under that one corner. So I'll put a little piece right there. Okay. All right, so that is the embellishment on the right-hand side. And again, my tag is able to move freely here. now. So the last thing I'm going to do is work on the last little pieces. So I'm just going to use my dots, my adhesive dots, and we're going to add that to the back of these acrylic shapes, and we're going to lay these down over here. And looking to make sort of a triangle pattern, which is to the eye very visually appealing. So grab that here, like so. And then we have these last ones over here on the left-hand side to lay down as well. And we have completed this layout. So I'm hoping that you kind of have an idea now of how you could take maybe even something that's in a workshop that you really liked, like this one. This is one I actually really did like, but make it work with maybe the pictures that you have. It's, you know, I have a fun time just making layouts, but the idea is obviously you should be trying to get your stories out onto the layouts. And so I sometimes struggle with that. And so making these this particular workshop work for my pictures has been a challenge. I won't say it hasn't, but I do think that I am overall relatively happy with the final outcome. So, you know, just to give you a little bit closer look at what I've done here, and hopefully you see I put a little bit of shimmer on the pieces as well, and give it so that I had shimmer sort of on both sides, both on the left side and on the right side. And I now have my completed layout. All right, hopefully you like this video. You got some good tips. If you did, please go ahead and hit the like button. That really helps the algorithm on YouTube. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will see you on the next layout.